the right one. Okay. Okay. That's screwed into there. All right. Always remember to put the ground back on, okay? All right, that's in. That looks good. All right, next up. So that's all in. Now you got to manage the fan. So what the issue with this drum, like this drum motor, is that it heats up, and once it gets too hot, they'll literally like stop because it'll have overheat protection, so it'll stop itself from like, killing itself. So you'll eventually you're gonna need to get it cooled. So that's why they have a fan on like all the V2, so it cools off this part of the motor. Because when I was measuring it, this was like hot to touch when it got to the point where it just stopped and it couldn't do 500 grams. So this has to be actively cooled for it to work, especially with higher loads, like anything 400 grams and up. You're gonna have to get this cooled. Okay, so and the way they do it is kind of a little ghetto. They kind of like cut off an edge. Let's see if I have the fan. Yeah, it's down there somewhere, but they'll usually cut off like an edge like this way, and then they'll just kind of just jam it into here with it elevated a little bit. But you can use a smaller fan. I mean, because as long as like it's cooling off the body, I'm gonna put a fan right here and maybe put some holes down there, and just so it blows upwards and towards into this way. So they have it angled like this with the bigger motor or a bigger fan. I'm gonna just have it flat with some holes at the bottom just so it just blows straight up into it. I might even get like a thicker fan, maybe like a, this is a 30 by 30 by 30 by 10. I think I get like a 30 by 30 by 20. This will have enough space. So I put it right there. It's like a perfect fit. Or better yet, I could just print out a section of my, get my own little what's it called, 3D printed coffin, and then I'll put like a little bit of an area to where I can house this fan, so it's up a little bit higher and it's blowing onto here. We'll see. Another option is they'll also order these little metal heat sinks that wrap around motors, and you can get them for like 27.5 millimeter diameters. They just hop on here, they attach there, and then you have a fan right on there. You could like move it around. So that's another way of you can cool it off, but you just got to make sure you're cooling it. Anyways, all right, so these are connected to an ESP Nano or Arduino Nano. This is the Arduino Nano with a little bit of the breakout board that you don't need to have to solder things onto. So this one just has the ESP32 because I'm going to put high beam on it eventually. But right now it has Artisan on it. So the wiring is just pretty much similar to how you would set up on Artisan. Wedge shim or spaces on the back two screws of the fan. Yeah, I guess so. But I know the they have a setup like this, and they use like those little pegs that you see for computers, but they'll usually put it at a little bit of an angle like this. This is the same fan they use because I'm pretty sure they have like hundreds of or thousands of them in stock. And they can just have one guy that just cuts an edge and keeps it in like that. I just want something a little bit nicer. Also, I kind of want the heatsink option too because that's the kind of bling I want to put on my roaster. Anyways, so I kept it the standard setup, like how you would set up Artisan on an Arduino Nano with the add mega chip, the cheap, super cheapy one. So D2, D3 are still the data, and then ground is ground. I put D5 for the Hall sensor. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if you want to have it calculate the RPMs of the motor, which I'm going to have, then I'm going to probably do that. Just have to calculate RPMs, get more telemetry. So then you just need these other two wires. I think one is a PWN and one is like a direction pin. I think. I'm not quite sure. But I know the blue one I think is the PWM pin, and I think the white one is the direction pin. Anyways, I have the code all set up. I'll upload it later when I do an actual roast on it and make sure it doesn't burn down the house. So, burn down your house. I guess we're okay burning down my house. But, yeah. And this is just kind of like a quick setup. If anything, I might have other little units I'll solder in these things on it. ESP32 for high beam, but I'll talk about that later. So, the only thing else you need left to do is to splice that in the motor, because the motor connects directly to the 24-volt power supply. So that's like exactly what I did. I just hooked it up to here, and then it goes straight to the 24-volt power supply, and that's it. And I have it set up to where it turns on. It doesn't automatically turn on the drum. In the setup of the Artisan code, it starts it off at 0 pretty much, so 0 RPM. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. How you would install it, and then I'll kind of give you a go around what it looks like. So let me get you a little closer. A little higher. fire. Okay. So like, yeah. So I just use two Wacos. You can use whatever connection method you prefer. I really like Wacos. They're just nice. They're durable. And they just make connections easier. I mean, you could do a butt connection. That's fine. It's up to you. So let me plug this in. Oh, get this on the charger. Let me take this out. All right, I'm going to plug this in. Take my ugly mug off. We'll go to Artisan Capture. Artisan. Sorry, I'm trying to bring Artisan up. Come on. Hello. Oh, maybe that's not how you do it. Come on. Sorry, again, just trying to bring up Artisan. There you go. All right, here's Artisan, and then let me get the video feed of this. Let's make this smaller. So this would be the same kind of setup you would do in Artisan. There's just the code's different. Everything's all based on the code. So let's check the ports, see if it's still 10. Perfect. And then I'm going to hit on. Good. All right, let me plug the unit in. All right, the fan's on, that's on. Okay, so we'll hit on. Usually that turns it on. Usually when I have it start on Artisan, it does auto drum on. So I'll turn that off. And then, yeah, if you look at the events, you can set it up to where it goes to drum 100 as soon as you hit on. which you don't have to do. You can do something like 0 and it should be just fine. Oh, I guess you can't see that screen. But all right. So I'll go ahead. I'll hit drum on. There it goes. There's like a max that you, or a minimum that you have to be. I think it's above 30. Let me see. There's also like if you do hit a max, you got to if you do hit the like if you don't get enough torque to it, it'll actually turn off the motor. So you have to like restart the whole thing. I'll see where the minimum's at. I should probably fix that. Maybe 55, 52. And this is just percentage of PWM for, it's not the actual RPM. I think 50%. 40%? Yeah, it's not happy at 40. Yeah, so if you go too low, the whole drum will just turn off. So we'll hit drum off, turn this off. I'll unplug this, plug this back in. On. All right. So let me configure this. Events. Slider. I'm gonna put the slider minimum to 50. There's a setting you could do it. I'll have to do it on a separate video, but there's a setting on the events that you can change the minimum to be 50%. So if you want to go at a dog like super slow space, you could put it at 50, or you probably want to be in between. Okay, and then also wanted to note that if you these motors are say it's like 96 RPM without load. As soon as you put like 500 grams, it'll probably shoot down to like 76 RPMs at 100% PWM. So there's why I kind of want the Hall sensor in there to indicate how fast the RPM is, and I could adjust it from there instead of having to measure it. I'm just kind of doing it by sight at 500 grams. But it'd be better if I could actually use the Hall sensor to tell me what RPM is. So that'll be like the next code to implement. But that's it. Total cost of this, if you're doing it, the motor's 30. The motor's 30. The flange is like I think like $2 with the M3 screws, and then the bracket is about, they're custom made, so they're $8 or $6, whatever the price is. Those are custom made, and then what's it called? iTop and the OEM won't sell you that separately. But you can, I got a bunch of them, so you could buy it off of me. I'll put the DXF of it, so people that don't live in the US, they can make their own. It's easy. You could just like, well, I shouldn't say it's easy. You would have to find like someone like Senkanset in Europe or something to be able to make you these brackets. But I chose stainless steel at like 1.5 millimeter thickness. And they were able to cut out the design. You could bring it to any kind of like CNC shop if you're, if you have one close by. But if you're in the US, I got some. I have a lot, so if you want to buy one off of me, that's great. A 3D printed one, don't do that. They'll break real quick. So, yeah, that's it. That's all that it is with that. So, it's a pretty easy setup. especially when you get the artisan code in, and then eventually I'll implement the high beam part into it, and then it should be covered both because I usually use high beam, but I wanted to do artisan because that's like kind of the big one that people like to go to first. Yeah, and I have the code here. There's like I think 4 or 5 new lines of code that I put in. It's all under drum handle. Drum handle is the biggest thing I had to adjust in the code. Everything else is just kind of set up, define pins and whatnot. But yeah, so yeah, the motor is the most expensive part. They used to be like 25 for U.S. tariffs. They're like 30. I don't have any of them. You'd have to buy them from China, and it takes about 10 days to ship. And I get the 96 RPM. If you get the 60 RPM, it's gonna drop like as soon as you put like a 500 grams in there, it's gonna drop maybe to like 45 RPM. Because the 96 one RPM, it drops to 76, 74 when you add like a 500 gram load. So yeah, and right now there's 500 grams in here, so it's doing 500 grams on a cold start, which was really hard to do before. But now it's doing it. I put 500 grams in this one with the motor, and it works just fine. So there's 500 grams in here. I'll put it trick to 100. I'll turn it back off. I'll set it to 51. And that's not RPM. That's 51 PWM, whatever that equivalent is. That's super slow. That's a whole lot of burnt beans. But you want to stay probably within this range. 86 RPM. Maybe even slower if you want to try agitating it less. What essentially you're doing is you're making it the drum roll, but you're not making it fling the beans over the fling the beans over the lamp. That's one of the biggest things we want to work on. Because once you fling the beans over the lamp, you start to have issues. Right, and that's that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Then you would just put the fan here. I'll have to do like a complete build, but let's back up a little bit. And then I would probably just put the fan right here. And like that guy said, like Rapat said, put wedge some shims in there so the fan doesn't brush or like scrape against there. Which is a good idea. I actually should put some shims onto the V1 I just put together. Yeah, that's how you would get that drum mod started in there. I'm gonna turn this off. Oh no. What I need to do is so right now I don't know why it won't let you see it, but I'm going to config. Maybe I could do a setting I could do. That's not it. There's got to be a. That's all right. Yeah, I'll put on the Sky Wiki just to make it easier for people to see. Um, anyways, so yeah, there we go. So now we have the V2 motor. This is the exact same motor in the V2. So now we have the V2 motor installed and variable motor RPM speed that's adjustable. You just need a fan, an extra fan, 2 Legos. Of course, you need your Arduino, either Nano, Atmega, or ESP32. That code should work for both if you're just using Artisan. And then the motor, which is like $30. The mount, $6. The screws, they're all included. And the flange, which is about $2. So 32, And you could steal this fan. You could probably just steal off of your filter box because the filter box isn't the greatest thing in the world. Um, you could steal one of these off of there and just put it underneath there if you really want to. Just with this one, you're gonna have to modify the fan to fit in there. But yeah, you just basically you just want to cool this part off because this thing gets like hot to touch and then it dies. It'll die mid roast, especially if you do back to back roast. There's no way it's gonna survive back to back roast if it's not cooled. Um, I'm contacting someone at AliExpress for heat sinks that are custom made for this, and they think they run like $3. Another additional cost that might be nice for it. But I'm looking at the heat sink that has the fan attached, so yeah, more bling to put on, but it'll make it look nicer at least, right? Anyways, I'll post a link up and everything with the bill of materials, the guide, and then I'll probably do a separate video where I go really more into depth about how to install it. But this is pretty much what I came up with to get you to get variable speed drum. And why do we need this? You don't need it. If you're okay with this motor that eventually craps out, and you're not doing more than 400 grams at a time, then you could stick with this one. This one will last you another year, and it's cheap as chips to buy another one. Like it's like $15 plus shipping, so maybe another $20 to replace this. You're gonna have to look at this as a consumable if it keeps dying. Or use this, where it'll handle the 500 grams. The torque's high enough, you just need to cool it off. Alright, let's unplug this. We'll switch things around. I know a bunch of people recently got a V2. So let me see if I could tag anyone if they're... A lot of the group buys folks are getting their V2s in, so I'm a little excited about that. Where is it? I think everyone's at work. But if we'll do a roast with the V2 just because they had it. I want to get a better fan set up this, and I'll do a roast with it separately, like a roasting video to see how it does, and then kind of see if there are any issues that occur. Really hoping there's not any issues. I mean, the code seemed rock solid. I'm hoping. We'll find out. Don't know unless we try. I'm gonna move this out the way. It's dangling, whatever. Oh. All right, let's go find my V2. Oh. Whew. Well, let me drop this down so it's at an angle. All right, let's go play with the V2 today. Now, there's my V2. I mean, it's okay. I don't have too much ill will against it. I guess I'm just a little upset that when they decided to implement like the TC4 protocol, they try to do all this extra stuff, so we are not able to like reverse engineer it like we did with the first one. It sends out it like spoops out fake like temperatures, and it just says all this unnecessary stuff because they wanted to prevent people from, putting their own version of Artisan in and using their controller board. All right, so here's our lovely 35 LCD panel. I'm going to bring the screen up a little bit bigger. So here's the LCD panel. We'll put that in. I'll plug this whole thing in. It's a loud fan. I want to say the bottom one. Is that it? Yep, that's the tablet one. The bottom plug is the tablet. Oh, God. And the new V2s, they don't have their really shitty tablet holder thing that they sent in the first batch. Yeah, that shit was atrocious. They have these nicer ones that kind of remind me of this one. I got this on Amazon, but it looks like it has some what's it called, some adhesive on the back, so it forces you to hold it on there instead of like stand it up like a laptop or like a tablet, a little tablet holder. So I like using this. All right, let's talk about the V2 for a little bit, and I'll give you my opinion on the V2, my unwarranted criticism, and let's turn the music off. I'll just turn the music down. Okay. Get back to chat. All right. So V2, here's the control panel. Basically, the biggest upgrades are the tablet. Then you have the active cooling fan that actually cools off the thyristor and prevents thermal runaway. You also have environmental probe in the back to measure the environment of the chamber and then the temperature of the chamber. So you have that temperature probe, and then you have the bean temperature probe in the front. And of course, like we just did, we have the drum motor, right? That has the upgraded drum motor. This is a brushed one. It has a brushless one, so of course it's more efficient, has more torque. The only thing is it still gets hot, and that's just the nature of worm drives. They just get hot. All the sliding action of the gear and spur gears and all that kind of stuff, but it gets hot. And then when you introduce how close it is to the back of the roasting chamber, then you can tell it gets pretty hot. And it's also connected from the drum to the back of the drum to the mount, and that's just one big unit. Let me see if I have one. Usually I have like the drum holder. I don't think I have one right now. Basically, it's just like this big thing that helps that holds the drum in place and holds the motor mount in places too. But they're connected, so of course it's going to transfer heat into the worm drive motor. So that's why they added the fan. The fan is there to cool it off, and I was running it at 500 grams without heat, and it still was overheating without the fan. As soon as I added the fan, it was fine. So you definitely need a fan. It probably might have worked on my DC, my brush motor setup, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe cheaper though. I think those motors were like $8 compared to $30. But anywho, you're gonna need to cool it off, so that's why they added the fan. So those are the biggest difference between the V1 and the V2. The body is the same, except for the front, right? The front has a different face. So I like to say that everything's the same except it has a facelift. Although I consider the look of this face a downgrade in comparison to to the V1. The V1 looks a little bit better. It just looks cooler, I guess, because they were really shooting for that Darth Vader aesthetic, and then it got popular, and they realized it's probably not a good idea to invoke the wrath of Disney in terms of like their trademark stuff and everything. So I know they're moving it to other names like CBR. Some people in China like to call it the Black Samurai, um, which I don't know how well that would go here, but and then there's other names for it. Cater Joy, I think, has their own name for or nomenclature for it. iTop, has Cyber Roaster. Fosho Nakimata has Delta, and Alpha for the V1. But in general, it's like a CBR, Skywalker, all the same kind of thing. They all come from the same factories, the same two factories, or two factories that manufactured like the Skywalker lineup. There's actually gonna once the Nova Roaster comes out, I think that one comes out from a different facility, or maybe the same one is here. Who knows? And then they also have the big boy coming out, the 1 kilogram machine. That's actually coming out, I think fairly soon. Maybe by the end of the year. I'm hoping they come out a little bit earlier so people could test it, because people want the 1 kilogram machine. It's going to cost a lot more, but if they don't implement things like right, I think it's going to be a bust. So for those wanting the 1 kilogram machine, maybe wait till people get their hands on it and then try it out, like myself, and tell you how it goes. But anyways, let's get this roaster started. All right, so let's go get a good look at the control panel. Let me see if I can do it without that much glare. Ha ha. All right. So, got your drum settings, heater settings, fan settings, all that kind of stuff. You get hit preheat. Hit start. That should start it up. That works. They still do it at 100%. No, do not do it at 100%. So get the heater down to the 80s. 100%, you're putting it like full blast on that lamp, and that's not good. That's how you break a lamp. We have one guy who's using his V1 as a production roaster, and he was like roasting at 100% on the bulb, and he's like, I had to replace my bulb again, and I'm roasting like 80 kilograms, some crazy number he was roasting. But anyways, he really he had to replace the bulb in like a month. That's because he had it preheating at 100%, and then he was roasting back to back on a certain profile, which is wild. He's roasting back to back with it, without doing the fan mod or any mods to it. But anyways, so yeah, drum, heater, fan, great. So now inject, which is drop, or not drop, like, what that's going to be your, it's not inject time, it's eject temperature. I don't know. Inject. There's there's an update where you can get all the wording right. I haven't done that yet. Then you hit start, and I think that's the inject temperature, I guess. That's pretty high. And then eject the beans or drop. Save profile. I don't save any. I care to save the profiles. So let's go to settings. I'm gonna turn this off. This doesn't do anything because I don't have the filter on. Here are the profiles you can pick. And then this all to the profiles you can pick after you do a roast. So that's a roast I did. Yeah, hello world. This will be on. I'll put it on YouTube, and I'll also I'll make a separate video too. But yeah. and hit back. So if you want to turn Bluetooth on or off, you can do it on. But when you do that, you no longer have control of any of this stuff. Everything is through Bluetooth. And I think you need to turn Bluetooth on as well if you want to connect it to your computer. So let's try connecting it to this computer. That's been quite the bit of contention with that. So there's the bottom one, which is the bottom one is the tablet. The top one should be the serial connection to your computer. I'm using a USB-C cable, so I'm going to plug it into the back of my Stream Deck thing. Oops, I did not like that. Which one can I unplug? What's this one go to? What the hell is this? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what that plugs into. Oh, never mind. That plugs into the computer. Duh. Power computer. That one's to my audio. And that one's to my... Oh, boy. I ran out of USB-C slots. Fuck. I gotta look for a USB-A to USB-A connector. Pardon. I'll be right back. I can't even remember if it came with a USB-A to USB-A connector. Ugh. Can't believe I have one. All right, I found a USB to USB-A connector. So USB-A male. These two sides. So let me put this on top. Plug that in. So we'll connect it to Artisan. Let me get Artisan connected. Oh, and then we have to do the profile. So in the Delta channel, I think Kevin added the ACID file on, so I pinned that in there. So if you want to look for that file, it's in there. I'll upload it to the SkyWiki too. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna load this profile. All right, I'm gonna have to do a window capture just so you can see everything. Or display capture. That's what I should do. There we go. Sorry about that. Anyways, so we're gonna load that profile in. So load recent settings. We'll do load settings, and we'll download Artisan, Skywalker V2. So now, oh, I didn't find it. No? Not a fan? What if I drop it to 9600? That'll work better. Oh, so you don't need Bluetooth on. Okay. Apologies, everybody. That's even better. I thought you needed Bluetooth on. Somebody told me that. Let's turn that off. All right, let me go put my other screen back on. Okay. So I got a USB-A in there, right? So what I was doing was I was putting Bluetooth on. Let me turn off. I'll turn that off. I'm gonna do Bluetooth off. Hit back. Put Bluetooth on. So when you do that, that connects to AK Roaster, and it should show up on your Bluetooth list. So let's see if it does. Yep. And it should come up like under like AK Roaster like this. So usually if you put on Bluetooth, if you want to connect it via Bluetooth, you have to go under AK Roaster, and then you could do it that way. Serial connection I always think is better. I haven't had a Bluetooth dropout on here. Like this is classic Bluetooth. I haven't had it drop out on me, but I haven't roasted that much on this machine. If I were to roast on here, I'd just keep it serial connected. You don't have to add the intricacies of a serial connection, or not serial connection, a Bluetooth connection, when you can easily just do serial. So all right. Anyway, so if you want to connect it through a USB cable serial to your computer, just hit settings and then turn the Bluetooth off, back, and then we'll look at Artisan. Okay, and when you're on Artisan, so what I did was I did config port COM11 was the one COM that it chose, and then of course I loaded load settings. So you want to load, download, and then the Skywalker V2 setting. So you'll do this first, which You'll load that up, and then you'll go to port, and then you'll find the COM port. You might have a list of them. You can always just unplug and plug it back in to find out which port that it's supposed to be under. And after that, you just hit on. Good. See, it's at 100%. Just drop that right away. Or better yet, let's fix the config so it doesn't do that. So we'll go to events. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna do serial command of OT. I'm gonna do 0. Let's see if that does anything. Nope, doesn't. I guess just be mindful and then bring that burner down to like 60 or 50. If you're gonna preheat, set it up to like 80, 85. Try not to go 90 over to 100 unless you're trying something, but just stay away from 100 for sure. That really gets the bulb going. You can adjust your air, and then your drums. That was weird. So the drum goes down to 80. It doesn't really go that slow though. Like when I have it on here, I think it's still going like 65 RPM. I prefer mine at like 45, 50. And then set value, that's for PID control. So when you hit start, if you want to roast manually through Artisan, turn start PID on charge. Turn that off. Turn the whole thing off. Just unclick that. And then and if you want to if you don't see that control thing for some reason, then you can also go to config and then device and then click control. I'll also show you on the V2. You notice how there's PID firmware. When it's PID firmware, that usually indicates that you're not using hardware PID, you're using software PID. So what we're doing right here, and what's kind of the shitty thing, because it was kind of marketed towards us that it would have like some sort of hardware PID, but in all actuality, it was just cooling off. There you go. But instead of giving us hardware PID, they just added software PID onto through Artisan. So it's a dick move, you know. I guess they didn't really tell us they were going to get hardware PID. We're getting software. So, and the big thing about that is you can literally still do the same thing with the V1. A V1 could do the PID control as well, because it's literally just connected through. It's just the PIDs is just ran through the software through Artisan. Nothing fancy. Where if you imagine that kind of PID system will be slower in comparison to like a legitimate hardware PID system, or just having the PID on your ESP32 or your Nano. And that's just more of like a timing and speed issue, because it's a lot slower to run PID through your software that goes to a computer and has to do all the calculations, where it can do the calculations through a PID library on your ESP32 or on your Artisan. Or Artisan, or what's it called, that? Your Arduino Nano. So that's one of the things I was a little upset that they didn't really deliver a legitimate PID system. They just have you do it through software. Anyways, you could adjust these settings. What I did with my V1s is I just copied their KP, KI, and KD, and then put those PIDs onto a V1, and then you have PID control, and you just adjust it as best as you can to fit it. It's not going to be the greatest control. It only controls the lamp, A really good system that controls pit authority a lot better, it would be having like an inlet fan that's controllable to kind of control the temperature, and also have a fan to be able to increase as soon as you go over a certain amount of temperature. They call that anti-wind up. So it doesn't go past that set value, or it doesn't go past that set value too high, like 10 degrees over. The anti-wind up will kick in and blow a lot of air in so you could cool off those beans to get back to like what 200 degrees Celsius or whatever your set value is. But anyways, and that's how you set that up that way. All right, I'll show you how to do it through Bluetooth. I'm so reluctant. So same deal. You have to download the Artisan asset file. You load it. Instead of this time, you're gonna want to go to your let's go to video. So this time, now you want to put Bluetooth on. Right. So we hit Bluetooth on. Keep that right there, and Bluetooth on. What you do is if you really need to connect it, not Bluetooth on, yeah, Bluetooth on. Okay, so if you really want to connect it to Bluetooth, then you would just search your Bluetooth, and you want to kind of go through there. You're going to look for something called AK Roaster. You're going to hit connecting, and the pin is 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, it's ready to go. And then once that installed, you go to config port. You're gonna add 12 or 13. It'll give you two. It's basically it's pretending to be a serial port over USB. Is essentially what it's doing. So you have two ports. You have 12 and 13. We'll hit 12. We'll see if that works. That works. All right. So it was the first one in that case. If it's not, then you just go to the next one. All the controls there. Let's do. It's kind of dumb they don't let you do drum off. I guess they do the calculation. So 80% is 55 RPM, and then 100% is 68 RPM, which is about the same measurement. I think it's the exact same motor, the 96 RPM motor that I was using on the V1. So I honestly think 50. I want to see what code that is. If you ever want to see what it's sending back and forth to each other, you can go through messages. Or not messages, it would be serial. Go through serial log on and off. That's what it sends. You can hit 55 and then stop it. Kind of see what code it sends. I think it just changes the value in here. Anyways, we can go to config, events, and then we can see what the buttons are. OT380. Okay. So let's just fix the slider. We'll set the slider to 50. There we go. Actually, what happens if we set the slider to 0? All right, I'm gonna go to events, go to the slider. Let's set it down to 0. If it's working how it should be, it should stop the whole machine. Okay. Okay. Well, it looks like they speed limit it to anything below 50. the same. So I think you could bring it down to 50 or 50 drum if you adjust the config file. If you adjust the events file, I mean. So events slider, sorry, the event slider to bring the minimum down to 0 to 50. We'll keep it to 50 like we did with the V1. The one with our code that's in the V1, you could go below 50, but it'll cut off the motor, which is what they're doing, which was what they're preventing. Is why they set it up that way. Because if it gets too low, it just turns off the whole drum, and you have to restart the whole machine again to get the drum working. All right, so if we bring it down to 0, it should stop it. I'll put a button in to stop drum. If you ever want to add a button, you just kind of pick it here and you just hit add button, or you just fill out 12. I'm just going to put stop drum. Hit stop drum. OT3, I'll just keep it to 0. And then, yeah, stop drum. Where'd my button go? Copy this. Oh, okay. Where did it go? Events. Where did I put off? Visibility on. There. Put this back to 14. Interesting. Oh, because the minimum. All right. So I'll hit the slider. All right. Slider, then I'll put the minimum to 0. Okay. All right, so it sounds like it does slow it down when you do get to 50, but below 50, it stays pretty much the same RPM until you hit 0. Then it turns it off. All right. So that's pretty much basic control. So if you want to do manual control, and you're probably controlling, if you go on Artisan the first time, you're probably wondering why you can't control the burner because it keeps going up and down. If you see that happening, like this. You're like, okay, I want to drop the temperature, and it does this. it goes right back up, and you're fighting it. That more than likely means that your PID controller's on. So what you could do to stop that is just hit off, or you could remove this part and just hit off and then on. And then SV will be pretty much useless, so you could just put it to 0 or 60. It won't do anything. Oh, one thing. Another thing you could do to control heat is let's do sliders. You know, it's at 100%. Let's do let's not do 100. Let's just max it out at 95 or 90. Okay. So when you do get your PIDs back on, turn that on. It doesn't go straight to 100. It'll stick to 90. And that's another way you can save your bulb. Also, make sure your drum's on. So, but if you do have your PID on, you can actually just use it to do preheat, like use that to kind of preheat your temperature. And then when you're ready, you can also hit off to turn it off, and then you can move into charge. When you're done. And now we'll start the roast. When you dump the beans and then you hit charge, then you're starting up your roast. Okay. That's basically it. It runs just like pretty much like a V1, except you have this tablet now. Another thing I hate about this tablet is I can't control anything when it's plugged in. Let me show you. That's me. So see how it's running. It's on I should change the set value to something decent. 195. So right now you kind of you can see you could try moving it. It won't really doesn't adjust anything, which I feel like is a missed opportunity. It just displays things. Also, if you do roast with just this, mind you, they don't graph ROR here. They graph environmental temperature, and then they graph yeah, they graph environmental temperature and then bean temperature, but they don't graph ROR over time. And when they do, they measure ROR every 30 seconds, which is kind of stupid. Yeah. And if you want to change to like Celsius or American, you hit it right here. But you gotta do that before, I believe. There used to be a bug where if you hit F, it would just stay Celsius. I'm trying to think of anything else I should tell you. That's basically how you start it up. Right now, I'm just gonna let it warm up, and we'll do a roast. Let me see if there's any questions. I didn't check Discord for a hot minute. Oh yeah, let me know if you have any like V2 questions. Well, let's put all the stuff back in. So that in. Put one of these in. Ta-da. All right, and then just watch how it raises up, and you can see what the PID is looking like. Let's see. Where is the ET probe located? ET probe is located in the back. Let me grab my camera. I'll show you. Take a walk with me in my messy garage. Oh, PID's not working. Lame. Oh, did I hit on? Fuck, I didn't hit on. Sorry. All right. We'll vent out some air. We'll drop the temperature that way. All right. So get the screen on this. All right. So ET probe is right there in the back of the drum. It still uses their probe, which is literally just NTC, some NTC probe that's hard to find. And they're the only place that sells them. So if your probe goes out, you have to purchase it from them. But it's really cheap. It's like $4. I just don't know why they opted for that and not a thermocouple. Probably because it's cheaper. Oh, let me go back to the screen. Now you can tell. Now you can see how well the PID or software PID is working. All right, and you'll see the burner is going up and down, controlling itself to reach 195 degrees Celsius. It's doing its best. Oh, I could probably close this and put this back in since it has the temperature it reached. Since it reached the temperature I wanted. So, what else? So yeah. So my honest opinion, I think the V1 is pretty solid for the price that you get it at. I don't think the V2 at $800 is worth the price. At $700, I mean it's okay. Now I don't know. Even at that price, it's still kind of high. We got our units for like $550 for the group buy. but with the shipping and everything, it kind of went up in price. I feel bad because you could easily go to Artisan and get a V2 there for $700 and 5 pounds of beans, but and the cooler looking face, not the stainless steel toaster look. Um, so that's probably be one of the last group buys I'll do with the V2. Um, in terms of other group buys I'll probably be doing, I definitely want to get into the smaller Nova roaster. I've been wanting a roaster that does like 150 or 200 grams and below. Um, and I just don't want to get like a Cafe Logic or what the Nano or whatever it's called. They're just too expensive. The Nova roaster is going to be like under four, probably initial price of four, but I could easily see it getting down to 250. And then of course there is the 1 kilogram roaster coming out too. That I would be very wary for people looking to getting a production roaster. That way because they'll be their first time going would be big, and I don't know if they're going to implement everything correctly. So I definitely would like wait for one of us to get it and then test it out before someone spends like, because I think it's only gonna be like 1,500 or something like that for a 1 kilogram roaster, with pretty much the V2 but bigger. Okay, so here's where I like to use ET for the V2. I like it to a mark where I could start in terms of like if I have enough beans, like a 5 kilograms of beans or 5 pounds, not kilogram, 5 pounds of beans. Um, I like to be able to like make sure I remember the ET that I had it set up at, like the ET that I preheated to, in the terms of the temperature, because then I could go back to that and use that to warm up my machine, and then use that point to where I do my charge and start the roast. So I really think ET is more valuable when you want to get the chamber now, like the roaster basically ready for a consistent roast between different batches. Um, Recommended warm up time for V1 and V2. They really didn't give me one, um, but I'm just using Rubase's a warm up time. So Rubase is another roasting company, and their recommended warm up time is about 5-10 minutes. So you get it to charge temp and then like let it reach that point, and then let it kind of like the PID take over and have it be like, let's say 200C for about 5 or 10 minutes. And that's also for beginning roast too. I definitely would recommend, if it's your first time roasting with it, just set it to 200 for the warm up, for the preheat, and then it could just burn off all those factory oils. All right, let's go roast. Let's get Artisan back up. Okay, so I have it preheated to what I wanted to. Let's say every roast, I'm going to start it at 162. Okay, 162 degrees Celsius. What I'll do now is, since I want to keep it on manual mode, I'll go to control, and then I'll hit off. Make sure I turn that off. I'll turn that off too. So it'll stick at 40. Get all your stuff set up. Manufacturer recommends like air maybe at like above 50 or 60%. But I've been playing around with 30%. What I do recommend is, if you do choose whatever like air that you want to set up as, you keep it there. You don't adjust it throughout the roast. Just keep it there for the first few roasts until you get the hang of it, and then you can adjust your air exhaust. Drum, I'm gonna put it as low as I like. So I'm gonna do like maybe 40. These come in like 460, 450 gram bags, so they're usually spot on with that. So once I get that back up, this time you bring the burner up to what you want to start off with. So start off high. For 460, I'll probably 450. I'll probably put like 80%. And then you can note your charge temperature right now. So it's at 203. Oh, let me put a little in. Let me put my little tray in. Okay. All right. So I got it at a... Oh, that charge temp is really high. I'm going to drop it. I want to do it at like a charge temp of 200. All right. So I'm going to wait. Once it reaches 200, I'm going to bring it up to 80. Make sure the door is closed. All right, it's going to go to 200. I'm going to drop them in. Hit charge. A little late on that charge hit, but hit charge. Oh, shoot. Make sure the PIDs are off. All right, we'll start at 70. I usually start at like 80 on the burner, but we'll try to start at 70 and see what happens. See, ROR is going up. I probably should change the color of ROR too. That's kind of annoying. So I try to bring it out to maybe like the 4-minute mark, and then I'll start dropping the temperature from there. But also looking at my ROR and trying to see what's going on with it. More than likely, sometimes I'll see like it'll go down and back up. the temperature. Then I'll take a little quick peek. Just note when you take out your trier, and then you take a peek at your beans. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit more on my drum. Still pretty green. Alright, I'm going to drop down the temperature. Still green. Whoa. Oh, probably because I took the trier out. Yeah, it looks like when I turned up the drum speed and then I turned down the air or the heat, it kind of freaked this part out of the graph. don't think I measured the RPM on the drums right. Oh. Listening for first crack. There it is. Slow this down too. Do like a minute 45 at first crack. Oh, sorry. What I'm roasting is a Rwanda Rebuvo Rimwayoni. Dark roast offers punchy bitter sweetness. They always say bitter sweetness in Sweet Maria roast. I gotta post this up for Kevin. All right, here's our drop. Yeah, this is looking even. All right. All right, we're gonna go over the roast. All right, I'll tell you exactly where I fucked up. So right here, um, let's take a peek at the what happened. You see this huge plummet, right? And usually you could try and figure out what settings you adjusted, and then see, why did that happen? Well, obviously it's because I changed the drum speed. I brought it up to like 60, and then I panicked, and I was rolling down, but I had to bring it up. Actually, the RPM of the drum was way too slow. It got to the point where I couldn't even get the beans in my trier, and it wasn't flipping over. That means it wasn't agitating the beans enough to get it like on its side moved around. And what that causes is a lot of like unevenness. You're not evenly roasting the beans, and you could kind of tell that it happened here. You can see it's like the color's off just by a little bit. by a lot of it. So the color's off. Doesn't look that even. Not too much chaff came off. That's usually an indication that there's not enough agitation and there's not enough movement in the drum. So don't do like me and put the drum at like 50. I think I put 50. I probably should set the drum up to like 60 and above. Because before, it used to be set at 80 would be the max, or the minimum. I'd probably say 65, 60. Because if they're claiming that 80% of drum is at 55 RPM, then I should probably remain close to like 65, 70. So I went way too slow when I hit the 50. And you could tell by the roast that it's definitely uneven. I wish there's a function that we could I gotta figure. I think you can do this. Is like you add a little extra marker anytime you take the trier out, because you'll notice like big fluctuations in your temperature. But look how much of a fluctuation happens if you just change your drum. This goes from like 50. I knew it was bad because when the beans weren't going into the trier, that's usually a sign that it's too slow. I might have been gone to like 40 RPM, maybe 35. I tried to do it by eye like an idiot, but what I should have done is, kind of read that at 80%, it's at 55 RPM. So maybe stay within 70, 75, 65, somewhere in between there if I wanted it to get to that RPM that I like, which I think is 50. But anyways, I'll give it a taste. I'm definitely getting the gray tea with some bitterness. It'll be totally different when you roast it. Yeah. The beans are a little bit uneven. That's okay. There's always next time. So, all right, let me go turn this off. I'll probably drink these still. We'll see how they taste. If I don't like them, I can always toss them. And then I will take this off of here. All right. So we can tell here. Yeah, we can really tell that when I change the drum, that temperature just plummets. And if you think about it, it's because you're moving the beans around more, less contact on the probe initially, so more other beans are touching it, and probably not a lot of the beans were being intermixed. So you could tell that the bean roast, the roast is uneven. But other than that, I guess the biggest thing is, even if this roast comes out like this, you still try it out and you taste it and you see if you like it or not, and what's the issue with it, and then how you can change it later. Like, so if you save this, you can put that in your background and then maybe roast it to have something similar to this scrap, but change the variables to stay within the same path. So that's a nice part about Artisans. Let me go ahead and save this copy. All right, I'll be back on later today to do more roasting, and then we'll try different temperatures, different speeds. We'll try a bunch of different things, and to see how it goes. I don't know, not the greatest stream, but let me know if you have any questions, concerns. I do want to roast with a bunch of people who are getting their units today, so I'll see if I could set something up with that. But yeah, more V2 stuff come on the way. All right. Anyways, leave a question if you have one. Let me know if you need any help or if you want those files, especially for if you want to add that motor to your V1. Anyways, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. All right.